up, West Coast. Wake up, West Coast.
Well, good morning, everyone, and wake up, West Coast. Here you are today at our March 9 Wake Up West Coast event. So glad you're with us. I'm Jane Clark. I'm president of the Michigan West Coast Chamber of Commerce. Let me tell you what you can expect this morning. We'll start with opening remarks from our sponsor, and then we'll do some all-important chamber networking. Following that, we'll hear from today's guest presenter, Kavy Lenon from Meijer, and we're going to talk about supplier diversity. And then we'll wrap up our time together with a West Coast cash giveaway. It's going to be a great event. So some housekeeping notes. We have everyone muted. You're welcome to keep your camera on or off at this point. I might recommend off. But then when we go into the all-important networking time, of course, you're going to have to turn on your camera, your microphone, and your camera at that point in time. I also hope you'll use the chat feature at the bottom of the screen. It's a great way to introduce your company and interact with our attendees today. So let's get the program started, and we will start with opening comments from our sponsor. So today's sponsor is Disher, and Disher is a great friend of the West Coast Chamber. And so joining us today is Ryan Snip of Disher. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, it's great to see you this morning. I'd like to just have a brief update from you. Let me know what's going on at Disher these days.
Yeah, I'd love to. I actually get that question from my wife and my kids all the time. I get them from work and they're like, "Dad, what are you working on now? What are you doing at Disher?" And the simple answer is, we're being problem solvers. That's really a big part of what we do. We're always striving to live out our mission to make a positive difference by helping our customers solve problems. So many of people here in the community know of Disher for our engineering and design capabilities. That's where we got our start back in 2000, and it continues to be an important part of our business today. But through the years, we've continued to grow our business organically in both the industries that we serve and also the capabilities that we can provide to our customers. I'd love to tell you about some of those. I'll start with our advanced product development team. We've got a great team of researchers, industrial designers, conceptual engineers, and more that's helping our customers navigate what we often call the fuzzy front end of product development. We're helping them ideate and vet the best ideas while helping them understand consumer desirability, manufacturing feasibility, and commercial viability. On the other end of the spectrum, our manufacturing technology team is here to help our customers actually make the product and move it through the entire manufacturing value stream. Our team can provide consulting with custom machine design, assembly operations, process development, product launch, and automation. And I can't leave out our talent solutions team. As many of us are experiencing now, the need for technical talent and other professionals is extremely high. Our talent solutions team uses a unique talent acquisition model to attract and retain top talent that helps keep businesses like those here today moving forward while ensuring a strong culture fit and strategic alignment. But the one area that's seen the most growth in recent years is our electronics team. We all know that the world continues to advance in digital technology and connected products, and our team of hardware and software engineers is here to help our customers develop fully connected electronic solutions. So our diverse set of capabilities and experiences prepares us well to be able to do what we love, and that's to be problem solvers. We get to provide innovative solutions to some of the most complex problems. So we'd love to hear from you. Let us know how Disher can help your business reach new levels of performance with your people, products, and processes. So that's a little bit about Disher. Jane, I just want to say thanks again to the West Coast Chamber for hosting today's event. We're happy that we can help sponsor this. And I'm looking forward to learning from Kavy Lenon this morning as she discusses the importance of supplier diversity.
Hey, thank you, Ryan, and thank you to all the problem solvers over at Disher. We appreciate your support of the Chamber and everything you do in our local community. All right, so welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a great opportunity to make some all-important Chamber connections. And now it's time for the conversation I'm going to have today with Kavy Lenon. Kavy is the Supplier Diversity Manager at Meijer. You may know Kavy from her previous time with Herman Miller. She was the Director of Supplier Diversity at Herman Miller and just a great community friend. She's known for coaching, educating, advocating, and community outreach on behalf of diverse businesses all throughout our region. Kavy's been honored with the 2014 and 2016 Champion of Diversity by Diversity Plus Magazine, the 2018 Advocate of the Year by the Michigan Minority Supplier Development Council, and the 2020 winner of the Asian Pacific American Chamber of Commerce Minority Advocate Award. So we're in for a treat today to have a conversation with Kavy Lenon. So welcome, Kavy.
Good morning, Jane. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. Be part of the Wake Up West Coast. I hope everyone has their coffee. I do.
Let me grab mine too. So we've got our chamber mug, you've got your Meijer mug, and we're ready to roll. So
Awesome.
Kavy, today's topic is supplier diversity. And so let's just start with some of the fundamentals and maybe some of the strategy around the importance of a supplier diversity program. Can you share some thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So I believe I have a slide to kind of help coach the conversation this morning. So I want to share the 5 C's why companies really have a supplier diversity program. Here we go. Perfect. You know, many years ago, supplier diversity launched because of compliance, right? To create equity and opportunity for the underserved communities. Now that conversation has really shifted from compliance. But still, there are still some requirements from customers. So we look at from a compliance standpoint, from a government standpoint, as well as a private or public sector who require reporting, but that has really shifted to more connecting with customers. So when I think about customers, no matter what industry you're in, if you're in higher ed, healthcare, retail, manufacturing, you want to align your values with your customers. If your values align with your customers in terms of diversifying your talent pool or your supply chain, how to connect and mirror the folks that you're serving today, right? So this is a driven point for most companies who have a supplier diversity program. And then it drives competition. So think about today in your supply chain practice. Do you have a requirement where you are giving access for folks to be part of your RFQ? Think about, are you going to the folks that you know and been working with for the last 20 years? Are you really opening that up to be more inclusive for other folks that you currently are not doing business with? And I see, based on my experience, that really when you diversify your supply chain, you're going to create that competition. You're going to get different thoughts and ideas and different lens come from different folks who could provide services to you and ways for you to connect with your customer. I added community on there because when we really drive this work, we're making an impact in our community. We're creating economic impact, driving change. When we employ diverse-owned businesses, most likely, statistically actually shown that they're going to employ other diverse talent. And that's going to help grow our community in ways that we can work together, elevate just where you're at, because we want to attract talent into our space, right? So when we think about, well, we have a great program around corporate social responsibility, you know, think about sustainability, think about community and volunteerism. You think about supplier diversity being part of that, because we want to be inclusive to our community as they're coming in to open their own business or how they could serve the other corporations within the region. I think it really impacts that piece when we think about community. Lastly, I want to touch on culture. Most companies, as you may have heard, that inclusion and diversity is part of their DNA. And most companies are talking about that, right? How do we make this part of our culture? How do we make this part of who we are and what we stand for? This conversation has been elevated probably this past year. I've been getting a lot of calls from corporate partners asking about how do we launch a supplier diversity program and where do we start, right? So I'm really excited to be part of that conversation this morning, but I want to touch on these 5 key things. So I hope that we can elaborate on each of these areas in the future sessions, or even feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have that really pertains in these 5 areas.
Oh, thank you. I love the 5 C's: customer, competition, community, culture, and then, as you mentioned, for some it got started with compliance. But that's such a great holistic look at this. And as you put together your strategy, such important features. Let's flip then from the company that wants to establish a supplier diversity program to the actual diverse supplier. And there are a lot of certification programs out there that can help facilitate these kinds of conversations. You want to talk about the different supplier diversity certification programs that are available?
Yes, recently we helped launch with the Lakeshore Advantage of the 5 different certification bodies. So if you want to learn a little bit more, visit their Lakeshore Advantage. They have speakers from each different areas talking about how to become a minority-owned certification company. You could reach out to the Michigan Minority Supplier Development Council. There are actually 23 councils across the nation, but the ones that that support us in Michigan is out of Detroit with the Michigan Minority Supplier Development Council. Women Business Enterprise National Council, they certify women-owned businesses. Before I forget, you have to be 51% control and own. Minority woman, LGBT, it's part of the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. You could get certified by their local chamber. We have one out in the Detroit area that helps certify LGBT owned. We have Disability In, that they certify people with disability. And lastly, veteran owned. We have different methods how to support veteran to get certified. You could use the CVE, which is the Central Verification Department through the VA, or you could use the National Veteran Business Council Network. I know all these acronyms, sorry, to get certified, or you could use the Veteran Owned Business Roundtable. And I am the vice chair for the business, Corporate Business Advisory Council for the Veteran Owned Business Council. So feel free to reach out to me and I could help you get in touch with folks that represent any of these 5 different certification parties. They do help navigate you through the process. There is a process that takes place between 1 to 3 months for you to get certified, depending on the requirement and the audit that they do at your business to ensure that you are 51% owned and operating the business. You know, when I think about many diverse suppliers that I have encountered in the last probably few years, many are not certified, but qualify. You want to get certified because this will open doors for you to really work with various companies that have a supplier diversity initiative. And the way that we count our numbers from a corporate standpoint, we want to ensure that diverse business are certified and operating. So that way we could track the economic impact that we're having within these classifications.
Yeah, so 5 certification bodies, and it sounds like Kavy, you would be very willing to help people start that navigation. We can help find the right starting point to get
absolutely. So if you are a 51% owned and operating as one of those entities, feel free to reach out to me or search one of the organizations that represent the third-party certification body. They would be happy to help you through the process, and I'm happy to help. And maybe after this event, we could share some of those links with our attendees today.
We'd be happy to do that. So for our members that are on the call, they're ready to start a supplier diversity program. What do you do? Where do you begin? I know, Kavy, you've got some steps for us to consider.
Yes, thank you for that question. I get that question a lot. So there are 8 best practices from the National Minority Supplier Development Council. As I mentioned earlier, there are 23 different councils across the US, and these are the 8 best practices out there. And I want to touch on probably 3 of the 8. I want to start with number 1, establishing a corporate policy and having top management support on this is so critical, so important, because you want to embed this process into your procurement practice. Once this is part of your procurement practice, you want to ensure that in your quoting process that you are including one of the classification, one of the diverse classification or more, right? So to drive that competition, as I talked about earlier. And I want to talk about number 4, providing an opportunity for diverse-owned businesses in your strategic sourcing. Ensure that your buyers or whoever is procuring, they are out there searching to make sure that they are truly inclusive when they post out that RFQ. Because you never know if you do have the best partner or not. So when you bring in other lens or other businesses into your practice, this may drive a different behavior in your buying practice, where you discover that there are diverse owned businesses that are competitive. I mean, from my experience, I think I saw one of my suppliers that I had a great relationship for over time. They've been with Herman Miller for 30 years. I'm going to give you a shout out, Diane, but Global Concept here's in town, you know, they drive great work. They do creativity, innovation, and bring solution to the table. Now I'm excited where I'm at Meijer now, where we're opening doors for other diverse owned businesses that could provide goods and services to us, as well as merchandise, right? So during the pandemic, I have connected with so many different individuals that either ran their own businesses or their restaurants, or even navigating trying to open their own business. What are some of the ways that I could connect them at Meijer, or even connect them with my business partners? I recognize a lot of our business partners here today, you know, Blue Cross Blue Shield as one of the sponsor. I mean, they have a great program over there, Lynn, and then Consumer Energy as they're launching their own program. So don't think about, when you think about your product, think about ways how you're going to be able to navigate into each of these industries as they are launching their own supplier diversity program. So understand how to embed this into your strategic sourcing practice.
Yeah.
Last, I want to talk about number 6, establishing and tracking and reporting. So there's always been a saying, right? When you start tracking something, things get done, right? Setting goals. So set small goals. Think about just these 8 best practices. Where can you start in your organization? If you started with number 1, just putting a policy or evaluating your current policy today, or looking at it from a lens, are you being truly inclusive and welcoming to everyone to be part of your business practice? 2, evaluate where your current situation is right now. Evaluate your spend, find the gaps, find opportunities within those gaps. And if you see that there's an opportunity that you could reach out and include diverse owned businesses, here's an opportunity for you to expand your network, expand your vendor supply base. Oftentimes I get the question, well, how do you set your goals, Kavy? Well, that's where you set your goals, finding your gaps, and then fulfilling it with key initiative, how to close that gap. And it may take you some time because, you know, think about our region, we have X amount of diverse owned businesses in our region. But if you expand your network a little bit more across the state of Michigan, you will discover there are a lot of certified veteran-owned, minority-owned, woman-owned, people with disability, and LGBT-owned that could really add value to your business. So I would say those are the 3 that I would point out of these 8 best practices. The others will come. But please visit the National Minority Supplier Development Council. They actually have a PDF file that you could actually read through each of these 8. But I want to just touch on those 3 today for the audience.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. And we know here at the Chamber, what gets measured gets done. And so that's so important to put that plan in place and then track it, track your progress towards your plan. So Kavy, one of the, we need to do some matchmaking here, finding our diverse suppliers and linking them up with those that are interested in buying these products and services. And sometimes that can be intimidating. If you're a smaller supplier ready to approach one of the larger organizations in town, what advice do you give to diverse businesses who are ready to be providing services to a broader audience?
Good question. So the thing that I always advise our diverse suppliers, 1, you're great at what you do. You know your product. You breathe this day in, day out. Let us know how great you are and the value that you would bring to the business. What sets you apart from the competition? Get to know the industry that you're trying to get into, right? So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of industry from healthcare, manufacturing, higher education, now energy, we all have an initiative to grow and diversify our supply base, learn what our pain points are, and then come to us with those solutions, right? Instead of just approaching us, I hear this a lot from my peers, like a lot of people feel entitled, whoa, you know, I'm woman-owned, I'm a minority-owned, I deserve your business, but that's not it. You're just bringing yourself to the table to be competitive or bringing that innovation. You just happen to be diverse, right? Because you're great at what you do. And over the years, I have found so many great diverse businesses to bring to the business and actually sharing within my network as well. You know, you think about once you're in one industry, What can you do and provide that good and services to another industry and so on. And I think that's important of really growing our supply base, not only just directly doing business with us, but think about your tier 2, your tier 3. You want that great supplier to support those level as well. So your network could easily expand as you just are just making those 1 or 2 connection with some of those companies that you want to do business with. And be patient with us, right? There's some suppliers that we've been in business for a very long time. Until we're ready to quote out that will give you an opportunity to come with your best solutions and showcase who you are to the company. So that would be one of my advice to the diverse owned businesses, and making sure that you get certified too. That's very important. And be patient. Be patient, because we can't award you the business immediately, but always keep in mind how to nurture those relationships with the key advocators in those companies, right? So I'm an advocator. I'm going to influence my business partners to meet with you. So once you're able to meet with me and then meet with my peers, now it's up to you to really bring your game.
Yeah, that is great. So intention and patience. Be intentional and be patient. I think that's great advice for so many things, but especially in this area. Kavy, I want to note that Colleen has posted for everyone your LinkedIn address there in the chat feature. So be prepared. I know we've had some audience members that are asking how they can connect with you, and we really appreciate that.
Absolutely, and I'm happy.
Yeah, you are one of the leaders in this space, and so we appreciate this. One of the 5 C's you talked about was culture. Let's talk a little bit just more about culture and the benefits of building that supplier diversity base in the overall culture of an organization.
Good question. So I led with the conversation about most companies have diversity, equity, inclusion part of their DNA, part of who they are. And I believe every company have that intention, but never publicly verbalize it or part of their policy or part of their practice. But I believe companies do have great intentions to make sure that their employee base is inclusive of everyone, and making sure that when you think about your supply base, it's inclusive. You want to create a great space for people to work. You want to create a culture that everyone could connect and be their whole self. And it's the same for suppliers, right? You want to make sure that your suppliers could be your long-term business partners, and they could come and be their whole self and bring all their greatness to your business. And that, to me, really connects and create a rich culture within a company or within any companies, right? So when I think about a sense of belonging, I moved to West Michigan about 20 years ago, and I came from California. And I think about coming in, I want to feel connected. I want to feel like I could live here, I could grow here and build my career here, which I have, right? It's because of the culture that we have around our community, around the companies and the people that we meet. So we want to retain those type of talents when people come and visit West Michigan, that they could see themselves having a business here or work for someone who aligns with their own personal values. So I would probably leave it with that in terms of culture.
That's great. One of the 8 best practices revolves around communication. What are some of the best practices you have seen as companies share information about their supplier diversity practices?
Good question. So internally and external communication. Internally, how are you going to communicate this across your business enterprise? Either intentionally embedded into your business practice. Most companies have supplier diversity part of their procurement practice or their DEI department, or truly embedded in overall corporate. If you have a smaller company that may not have a dedicated individual like myself to lead the program, how do you could lead this as a subcommittee? And I've worked with companies who form a committee that is driven from multiple departments and advocating and championing for this inclusion within their company. So have that internal communication, external communication. How do you give access to diverse suppliers to do business with you. So on your website today, what are you posting out there around your supplier inclusion, that you're welcoming everyone to do business with you? So those will probably be my first to win immediately, to help the audience here today to figure out how do they want to message that. So internal communications the start, and then the external communication. So think about where you're communicating your diversity and inclusion messages out right now on your website, because when people are searching, they're searching for keywords, right? Keywords are diversity, inclusion, supplier diversity, supplier inclusion. And if you don't have those keywords on your website, people are not going to be able to find you and know that you have a program or an initiative around this effort.
Yeah, that is great advice. And Kavy, I think what I'm hearing is any size company can be doing this. This does not just have to be for the players in town. This is for all of our companies, chamber included, everyone doing business within our community. You need that, and you may need an internal champion, but I think all of our listeners today can play a role in that. But I think it's often said it starts at the top. And so for some of our company leaders, what advice would you have for them to get started?
Number one, make sure that your employees, your company, know you are intentional about this, that you have a desire to create a supplier inclusion program within your company. Recruit advocators, because there's probably someone in your organization will be an advocator and champion this work or lead this work. Find those individuals within your organization and really help move this forward and support that effort, right? Be public about it. Be open that you want to drive this work to support our community as a whole. And I've seen companies that really thrive from this work, right? And where they're able to differentiate themselves from their competitors. So that's probably be something that I would encourage business leaders just to do it. Just to share the message with their organization and say, hey, we're up for this challenge. We want to do this. Who's on board? And I'm sure you're going to find hands raised that they want to support this work.
Great advice. Just do it, right? That's
yes.
Good inspiration for all of us. So Kavy, we're going to start running out of time here. It's been a great conversation. It's such good information for our members. And so as we wrap up our conversation together today, what's the main takeaway you hope our audience members leave with?
Now that we start talking, the main takeaway I would love the audience to take this challenge. However, as an individual contributor to a company, how do you become a advocate? How do you help bring awareness to your organization who may not have this initiative? And for the business owners that are looking at launching this program, find ways how to connect with organizations that could really help elevate this message within your company, like the organization that I mentioned earlier. So those probably be my two takeaway from individual contributors, as well as the leaders who could make an impact right now.
Well, that is great. Thank you for that. I think we will all take your challenge, Kavy,
Thank you.
To us to just do it and advance our community in this way. So Kavy Lenon from Meijer, great conversation today. Thank you for your leadership for all of us in West Michigan. It's truly appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Wake up, West Coast. I love that phone.
Make it a great week.